and combiners. I'm going to show something related to grain management with channel extraction, things like that. But yeah, there's more that we want to talk about related to color. But so should we start?
Yeah, let's get going. So we're going to answer some kind of burning questions. So questions that we get through quite a lot. We've got a few from Dupe Tech, from some other people, one from Jane now. And also at the end, we're going to give you a little highlight of our new dry clean functionality coming out later this week. So shall we start?
Yeah, so I think, Michael, one of the questions that you sent us was related to DVO 32 usage. So kept here with a nice card that I prepared. So let's take a look at it. So I created some clips that have 32 applied to it. So I'm just going to apply them here to the timeline. Apply both. Whoops, sorry. These two. And let me just mark them. And for people asking me, actually, let me open this little guy here. People were asking me about keyboard shortcuts as well. We're going to be talking about some of them while we work. So, for example, here you can see that I'm doing the G, and G basically fits the clip directly to the extension here of my viewer on the timeline. And I'm going to press F1, and F1, of course, goes between viewer and the library. And what we're going to do here also is, let me just get this clip, and if you look at it, I'm going to do a quick play. And if I zoom in, I mean, there's an issue of brick wall that we're going to look into as well, but we can see that if we look at the cadence here, let's go to the beginning. If we go, so we're going to see that we have here our A, B, B, C, C, D, then D, A, B, B, C, C, D, D. So this is a usual problem that we get from footage that have the 3-2 applied from 23 to 29. And to remove, very simple. So 3-2, you can just select it from our convert package. And the moment I add it here, I'm going to open it. And you're going to notice that we offer a few options to find it automatically, or I can just manually select the phase and the field order. And I can also, using some of the settings from Twister, I can ignore cuts from start and end, so I'm only calculating certain things, or I can extend kind of the handle so I can see more from what's not showing, you know, from the clips. For example, if you have an extended clip that you need to cut it, so you can use this to ignore cuts from both sides. And here, the moment I have it enabled, you're going to see that now we have a clip with a shorter duration, because since this is a 23 project, and Dakota and Phoenix do not shorten the clip. I'm going to cut here what's extra. I'm going to do Control P. I'm going to go back to the beginning of this clip. I'm going to do a P to select in and out points, G to fit it again here on my screen. And if I just slowly go through the clip, you're going to see that now all the motion is correct. And even when I change from one clip to another, there's no wrong setting. So for example, if this started actually, instead of starting on A, if this was B or C, B, C, C, D, you can just change that using the settings directly. Very easy. And here, just because we already have that issue with the brick wall, so I'm also going to apply brick wall that's expecting a progressive signal. So I'm going to apply it after. And I'm going to do here brick wall. I'm going to select it, change this to a rectangular sharp. And we also fixed the issue with the lines. You guys see me do this before a bajillion times on this clip, but it's always nice to show. So let's go to the next one. So if I press P again, just to mark the in and out points, I'm going to do G. Same thing with this clip here. So we can see that we have those interlacing artifacts here from the 3-2. We're going to do the exact same process. I'm going to get your 3-2, apply it. It's going to go up to a specific point here where it's the actual duration of the clip. I'm going to go to that point here, cut it, delete it. And now if I look at this clip, same thing. It's been completely fixed. I'm going to do quick full screen. And we can see that now we have a clip with the 3-2 removed. So very simple to use. You have a lot of options depending on what you want to do. And as you can see, you can do a full manual, decide the phase, and you can decide the field order, and you can change any settings if you have a timeline that's been completely cut, and you just need to fix a specific clips from it. Now, jumping to another question that we had, upscaling, and this is always a touchy subject nowadays. So we have quite a lot of options on the market. Some of them are better than others. Some of them are using some of the newer technology, using machine learning and other things. So it's really important to understand what some of these tools are doing and what we do as well. So I'm going to start off here by showing you, I'm going to zoom in to a specific point of this clip. And we're going to start off looking at exactly what we want to be defining here. So first things first, this is a standard definition clip. So I'm going to show here as on 1080. Right now I have it to fit, but I'm pressing Q to go from plain output to source. But I'm going to change this to 3840 real quick, just so we understand what most people are doing, which is trying to upscale SD to HD and UHD at this point. So this is the original clip compared to the actual resolution of a 3840 by 2160. So what we're going to do is let's look at some of these options. So first of all, I'm going to keep on 1080, and I'm going to go to my output, and we're going to look here at what's happening. First of all, what we're looking at here first is just a simple bicubic filter. So if I jump here on my timeline to a specific point where we have some text, this is the best point here for us to look. You're going to notice that if I zoom in, bicubic by itself causes just a lot of blur. You lose a lot of the definition of the image. So this is the original, just doing a quick fit. But even though it seems good because it's removing a lot of the issues that we have in terms of aliasing and things like that, you would need to apply a sharpen, define exactly what I want you to do. So there would be a lot of processing here. Next option that we would have is using going back to the timeline, just using a regular, let me go to my effect. Oh, all right, let me go to my input effect. Another pen and scan, and here we're using a Filmworkz filter. Now, Filmworkz is really good for you to do downscaling in most cases. It does it very well, gives a really nice, sharp image quality. Here, trying to do this upscale, so this would be bicubic, just basically very blurred, versus Filmworkz now, which looks better, has more detail, things look far more interesting. But if we jump to the next one, we have also another option that's included in the Code Infinix, that's Zoom. Zoom does a good job, but I'm just going to do a quick split here, Ctrl F5, just to make things here a little bit easier for me to show. Zoom is good, but similar to Filmworkz, it depends on what you're trying to do. For this type of image, doesn't look that great. Now, I'm going to jump to our first DVO, which is DVO upscale. Now, upscale, I'm doing a small adjustment to the repo size, to reposition, just to match exactly where it needs to be. So if I change this, for example, to a 4:3 mode, it's fitting within that space. I'm not doing the scale right now, just making sure that everything is basically in the same spot. And if I zoom in, you can see that we have an improvement compared to what we had in the previous one. So you can see text is better, a lot less artifacting. It's not as blurred as bicubic here. So we have a better quality image. And even if I select here, I'm going to do a quick in and out. And I'm just going to ask to play just my marks. You can see that this looks good. Yeah. It's not great, but it's looking better. Now, let's jump to 3840, so UHD. From here, we're going to use another DVO. So we're going to do DVO Zoom. Zoom has a few advantages compared to upscale. One, it was made for UHD material. And also here, you can set up your display aspect ratio for source and destination. So it's already putting the image where it needs to be correctly. And it offers a few other options that are good here. So for example, you do have an option to fix some of these lines in a little bit of anti-alias. So it's maybe a little bit hard to see, but if I change this to a higher value, you can see that here in the letters, it's going from very sharp, a little bit of haloing to a much better result. Of course, this would need to be sharpened a little bit, and offers as well some options for zooming, X and Y separately. You can use regions of interest along with blinking if you need to, but still not the best result we can get. So then we jump to Scala. And Scala is our best upscaler. And I'm just going to go here real quick. Let me just make sure that I did not apply. Yeah, let me just remove this guy for a moment. So this is all fair and doing the same work. Scala right off the bat has significant advantages. One of them is that we use here the source section to calculate what is the level of the grain and detail from the image. And this provides us a better idea of what we're getting to do the initial processing. We can also suppress a lot of the grain. So you can see that this is already cleaner than the previous plugin method, cleaner than Zoom. And also we offer a sharpen mode as well. So if I go here to the title and if I change it to 0 or -1, you'll see that this is a little bit blurred versus 1 that looks significantly better. So this is a really, really good way to get it right off the bat. And of course, we offer zoom modes, we have some repositioning, we have everything that you saw previously, but it cleans up the image really, really well. And if I press play here, just on this section, you're gonna notice that this is true to the original intent, which is always the reason why we like Scala so much. So we're not trying to create detail where it doesn't exist. This is true to the original format, and we're not creating any haloing or any other issues here in the footage. And something else that we can, of course, do is, since we're already in Phoenix, I can go to my video, go to DVO Cross Color. I'm going to apply that before Scala. And why is that? Order of operation is important. DVO Cross Color is expecting a standard definition image. So right here, if you look at just with the base settings, we already remove all the chroma issues, the cross color that was happening here. And this is, of course, going through the whole clip. So it's easy for us to look, even this section here with the tree. If I show you here the original, several issues happening here in terms of color. And when you play back, it's very easy to see those problems as well. So the moment I click it, this is much cleaner and a much better image. Now, jumping real quick to a more live action example. If you look at this footage here, this is a 80s show from Britain that I have no concept of what it is, but I like the footage. So here the same thing. So if I go all the way back down, we have some issues with cross color as well. I'm applying the DVO deinterlace, which again, I'm going to show here some of you guys asked about it. Just make sure you select what's the correct field order that you have for that clip. I'm going to show you an example where you can use the double rate as well, which is really good. You normally don't need to fix the top and bottom lines, but if you have the option, you can just fix those lines as well to get a better image. But let's just take a quick look here. So this has a lot of issues. So if you think about, there's aliasing, there's problems here with the image right there. So if I do a quick, again, 1080, and I'm just gonna play a little bit of this clip so you guys have an idea of what's happening. Let me go back here. You can see that you have quite a few issues with the clip. So you can see here next to the frame, you have problems there with the color just splitting, the hair, and the image just looks a little bit noisy as well. So if we go back here, I'm going to zoom into a specific section. Go back a little bit more to the beginning. This looks pretty horrendous. So again, this is just bicubic. So just looks very blurred. I can do even a Q here. So we're going to see interlacing issues as well. So this is bicubic. Luxos is doing a good job to get it a little bit sharper. Zom very similar to it as well in terms of 1080 levels. Now we jump to upscale. A little bit better, a little bit sharper, but I still think there's a little bit of sharpening a little bit too much on certain sections. Now we jump to zoom, and zoom, we're going to go to 3840. This actually looks pretty good, very acceptable. But then we jump into Scala, and you can see that we already removed quite a lot of the noise that existed here in the background. So this looks better, looks cleaner, less issues with the edges. And again, what we're going to do is let's apply cross color right before everything else. And you can see again that right off the bat, even if you look at some of these sections right here, we basically removed a lot of those problems that were happening to the hair and to a bunch of other sections here of the image. Now, we could clean this up a little bit more. We could apply, for example, DVO velvet to get, decompress to get some of these edges, some of the blocking that's happening right now. So there's quite a lot of options in terms of how we want to do the upscaling here, but I think this gives you a better idea of the tools and where and how you should use it. Scala is very processor intensive, takes a bit to render, so we always recommend quite a lot of cores when using it, especially if you're doing UHD and up. But it gives you a really great result to start with. If you want to just change it a little bit, apply some sharpen or applying some DVO aperture, for example, depending on the material, you can get even better, and clean up some of the macro blocking. But for standard definition, this is our goal always, to keep the original intent without creating detail that wasn't there. And that's how you see a lot of these machine learning tools currently. So you just need to be a little bit careful in terms of what you're seeing and how the image is being processed more than anything else.
And do you always use Scala last?
Scala actually is always used first, but what's happening here is in terms of first in the sense of it needs to be an input effects, basically. Yeah. So let me just remove this guy. It has to be an input effects. This is what's important. But in this case, Scala is also expecting a material that's progressive. So you can see I'm doing the cleanup on the original material with cross color. I'm doing the interlace so we can remove the interlacing issues. Then I'm applying Scala, but everything is happening within the input effects. So this is what important, because the Scala, if it's applied as an effects layer, it doesn't really work. It's not at scale properly. So it needs to happen as first operation. So again, order of operation is important with some of these DVOs.
Yeah, interesting. Thank you.
Go. So let's, sorry, go for it.
No, that was my burning question. So
yes. So let's figure out another one. So we have two separate things here, but I'm going to work on them separately. So we're going to first talk about a little bit about color correction. Now, I'm going to go back to my 1080 file. And color, what I can tell you is, of course, there's some quite incredible people online that can talk about color theory in terms of also color, the way they want that they would state to you about color correction in terms of what they believe in certain operations are better and starting off and how you do color in a good, clean way. So we can talk about Warren Eagles, of course, Colin Kelly, Darren Musty, and Walter Volpato. Everybody has their own method. But the idea here is basically the same. We're trying to adjust the picture and make sure that everything looks best as possible. Not a full-time color, so let's everybody remember that. But so I'm going to show a little bit of the tools, how we're doing here in Phoenix, and combine that with actual grain management as well, which is another question in terms of, would you do it first? Would you do it last? What's the best order of operation there? So looking at this footage first, I'm just going to do a little bit of a zoom again. I'm going to play back. Maybe the actual stream might not show as much of the noise, but there's quite a lot of noise here. And we have some things that normally break a lot of regular denoise too. So have the smoke that can cause some artifacts and some other things as well. So I'm going to start off here applying, considering this was film material previously, I'm going to start off with clarity. So I'm going to do clarity. And what I'm going to do is, right off the bat, cleans up significantly, so without losing the texture of the image, which I find very, very important. So from here, you can take a look at what's happening. I'm basically going to be a little bit more aggressive. I'm going to be doing a little bit more of the amount. Now, sharpening, 0 is pretty similar to the original, but I want to bring a little bit of sharpen to it. So if you look at the letters here, if I go back between 0, -1, and 1, it's a subtle difference, but it's there, and it's subtle for a reason. It's just we should do a minor adjustment, you know. And at this stage, cached, and this is already looking cleaner to me, which I'm very happy about. Now, color, there's quite a few ways to work on this. We could go, I don't have a LUT here. I normally like to work under LUT, so you already have an idea what the material is supposed to be. I mean, log, it's not what I should be seeing. We should be grading under a log space, but I like to see the final result like normally people would be seeing it on set. Log is not the best thing that you should be watching, or even, I mean, considering nowadays in terms of column management, you want it to be working on the space that everything's already somewhat placed in the right spot for it to start with. But considering that I only have this as log, we can obviously do some things here. So initially, just removing some of that tint. So I could just move this here a little bit warmer. So I'm just doing a regular offset. This is a very common tool. So we have here lift gamma gain plus an offset tool. But we can also do quite a few other options. So we can do here RGB curves. So I could literally change some section here at the image, and I can just click on the pen there and just start moving it up and down. And you can see that I already created a dot right here for me. So I'm doing that adjustment here directly. I could also go here and just do a quick change to raise or lower my level. So I'm gonna just turn on some of my scopes here so we can see what's happening. So let's say that I want this here. I want to move this a little bit down here. This is not supposed to be a super bright shot to begin with. So I'm gonna somewhere here. And again, I can just click on different sections of the image using curves and just doing some minor adjustments to get to the point where I want. I could say that this should be somewhere around here. I mean, this is not gonna get to exactly the full black. This is not what I'm trying to achieve. But from here, I could say, yeah, this is my initial result. Can I add another layer? What I want to do is just do a quick contrast change. And all I'm going to do here is just change my pivot. Gonna move my brightness level a little bit higher. This is very contrasty, so please don't kill me. It's a look. And of course, I'm going to add another layer here. Let's say that I want to add some saturation. And I want to go all the way up to around 20% extra saturation here. From this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back here to my base, and I just want to do some slight changes here to my lift gamma gain. So just going to change my gamma. This again doesn't need to be too bright. Going to move this to be a little bit warmer in the mids. And I'm just using a tangent panel here that's in front of me, just so you guys understand what I'm not using the tools here directly in front of me. And I'm also just going to warm this up a little bit. And this is okay. So I'm going to add another layer. I'm going to, for example, go to my brightness regions. And here, the cool thing is brightness regions, it can define, as you can see here by the curves, the exact spot where you want to be doing some changes. So I can change the spread, what's the out point of that, and how is the spread. So for example, if I want to do here, very specific section of blacks, I can work on it here very quickly. And again, I'm just want to get my blacks a little bit less blue. Gonna get my mids here around here. Again, don't want to do this too bright, but I wanted to move my highlights a little bit away from that blue, but we can fix that with the shape. So we're coming from here to here so far. And also, again, using the panel, if I do a bypass layer, this was my previous layer. This is where we're at right now. So I'm going to do a quick play, tab, So I'm using Control Tab to get to the viewer that's full screen, but keeping my controls. If I wanted to do just full on with all the controls, I could just press Tab directly. And then we can get just a playback here for full screen. I can hide my scopes if I wanted to as well. You can go here to our setup and hide during playback, but I'm gonna keep that on because I want to talk about flicker in a little bit. And from here, we could, for example, do a quick shape or the quick rectangle here, right on the outside. Again, using the panel, I'm just gonna move this a little bit more out, keep this a little bit softer, change a little bit size. And from here, what I want to do is just to go to my balance. And I just want to move that smoke to be a little bit less blue. I could also do a keyer if I wanted to. So I could just come here, enable, click here and say, I want to keyer in this section. Can show exactly what I'm trying to achieve. I could change this a little bit more. Of course, I could change in my hue to a little bit more the speckle, can add a little bit of softness. And I'm just going to change here. Again, I'm going to turn it off. Again, I'm going to go to my balance. And I could just get that to be a little bit more in sync with whatever's happening. I would probably change the size of the shape as well. But everybody can understand what's the idea. So let me just change this outer softness quite a bit. And last, I could just basically try to create a look, or at least some idea of a look, getting my target Kelvin to be a little bit on the bluer side, and moving a little bit on my gain to be a little bit lower. And that's it. So again, please don't shoot me. But yeah, so we have a specific look, but this is the interesting part. We're still seeing now, of course, that we have everything done to the grade. We still have some noise. So what I want to do is I could apply again clarity. So I could go to the end of it and say, look, I want this to be as sharp as possible. So I'm going to add another clarity here to the end of it. And you can see that we're cleaning up the last few dots off that grain that existed within the shot. So again, off, on, we can see very close here to her face what's happening. And this just gives it that extra cleaning layer in case you want something that probably the Germans are not going to fail your QC, which happens often when you have noise. So this would be an idea. I actually had done a grade that was similar. And of course, here what I could do is I'm going to reset this completely. I'm going to go to my memories. I have a note here that I had saved previously. So I'm just going to go and recall that every single one of them. So just notes, click on recall. Oops, sorry, I saved it. Click on recall. The right one, obviously.
Notes from a different project.
It's from, if you can do it from different projects, you can do that from different timelines. You can choose to do whatever you want. So you can see here, I have notes for several different projects. I could just access them.
So you import notes that you've used on a different project onto this project. So you could add a similar looking footage. You're easily.
Exactly. And the other thing that, of course, I mean, here I could just be looking at not tracks, but for example, events. And here I could select any timeline and see all the events, for example, from any timelines directly within the project. So it's very easy for you to go back and forth, see here, as you can see, tracks, heads, events. I can revert to the original state when I landed on the shot. We have source, input effects, and this is actually good to show you. For example, if we're just doing a quick dry clean here. So let's look at this shot. And if we, whoops, sorry, forgot to mark it. Look at the shot and press play. There's issues here with flicker, with dust, speckles, everything.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at the shot, and let's first of all apply a, let me go here to film. First thing I would like to do is let's just get rid of this flicker. And along with the flicker, let's get rid of some of these issues that we have here. So I'm going to get this to be significantly stronger, more aggressive. I'm going to raise my analysis as well for the advanced analysis. And what's going to happen is, I love the switch about Phoenix. That's very easy for you to compare things. So if I press F6, I can not only here select, right now I have only a few modes available because I turned some of them off, but I have splits, duals, cut. I have a difference red, difference luma, subtraction times 10, and butterfly. So I can quickly say that I want to look at my source. Let me just get this dry clean running first. Gonna get this versus source, and instead of doing a split, let's just do a quick dual. I can press F6. And we can see here as dual. If I do Shift F6, I can select different modes, and this is what we're going to be looking at. So initially here, let's just do a dual. I just ran the dry clean, and of course we can see if I Control Tab that there's already a difference, but we're going to see that as a dual to make things better. But we can already see that it cleaned up quite a lot of these dust and speckles that we had. Now again, let me do a Shift F6. And what I'm going to do is, this is a difference red, which is one of the best modes you have. Basically, you can see that everything that was cleaned up, and dry clean does a little bit of denoise as well. You can see that we cleaned up a lot of that dust, and we cleaned up some of the bigger, smaller, removed some noise. We actually removed some vertical noise as well. And this is already a big difference. So, but if we do, for example, let me Control Tab. Now I want to apply my DVO flicker. So if I go here to film, flicker, this of course will change even more because now it's trying to see what happened to the flicker. But for a flicker, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on my scopes again. Another shortcut, Shift F11, reset your scope if you selected something. So you can see here I'm selecting different regions. Shift F11 resets it real quick. And I'm going to do here, instead of red, we're just going to do a split against the source. Again, F6. And if I Control Tab it, you can see how here on the right side, there's quite a lot of jumping up and down. This is the flicker happening, and that has been fixed on this side. Something else that I could do is I could actually, let me Control Tab it, type, for example, I'm going to play this back a little bit slower than I'm playing back right now. So I'm telling it to play as a variable frame rate right here. So if I press play, I can see this as playing 12 frames per second instead, which is a good way when you're doing the restoration, so you can understand what's happening without playing it too fast. So, and you can see here what's being cleaned up. Some of it we would probably need to apply a scratch target as well to remove some of those vertical lines. We would probably need to do some manual work or apply another layer dry clean to get rid of some of the other bigger speckles as well. But this is already a good start. And again, if we're looking at this as a grade, I can go back to my notes. And what I'm going to do is, let me just change the size. I'm going to get this here. I'm going to reset the shot completely. I'm selecting everything that I want to use in terms of copying. I'm going to do a recall. And it's just calculating all the DVOs that I had in the shot here. So it takes just a little bit of time because I have several DVOs applied, from dry clean to flicker to DVO clarity. So that can take a little bit of a moment. But when it does, we're going to see that we get the grade, and this grade actually use not only RGB curves, did contrast, use HLS for saturation, and a few other things. I also did on my master layer a pan and scan using a 4:3 border as well. So I'm already applying something, doing the scale and making sure that it fits within the 4:3 section. So you can see right here. And to turn off scopes here, I can do